Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another royal news video. So this video unfortunately doesn't actually contain anything to do with the real royals because I have got a bit of a bumper fest of slightly amusing articles to do with both Harry and Meghan. Meghan has been caught out telling some porcupines again, which is kind of humiliating, but I'm going to leave her towards the end of the video. And Harry has been humiliated in court yet again. Believe it or not, Harry has still got another court case in the works. Yes, he has had so many, it's hard to keep up. Well, this is a big one where there are several other claimants. You have Elton John, I think David Furnish, Sadie Frost, and of course, Harry. And this is against Associated News, the owners of the Mail on Sunday and the Daily Mail. This is why many of us think that Harry and Meghan are suddenly getting so many articles put out about them, majority of them positive, from that particular media outlet. Although, personally, I don't think it sounds like A&L have anything to worry about when it comes to Harry presenting evidence. As I briefly touched on a couple of videos ago, Harry is presenting evidence to the judge that he was targeted by giving them information to do with Prince William and Catherine's harassment by the media, their court cases that were raised many years ago to do with the Levinson inquiry, where Prince William took a payout. He and Catherine agreed a settlement figure which they donated to charity, of which the Invictus Games benefited. But Harry has had this evidence, unsurprisingly, thrown out by Justice Nicklin, who I think is beginning to lose some patience with the sort of games it would see that Harry and his legal team are playing. Now, whilst I have said before, I have got no legal experience whatsoever outside what I've learnt in a few films. And as we know, you have to take a lot of that with a pinch of salt anyway. But it was pretty obvious that if you are going to court, you're suing somebody for something that was done to you, presenting evidence of things that happened to somebody else, surely that's not really going to stick. If you're trying to prove that a crime happened to you, orchestrated by one particular media outlet in this instance, and you've given a list of the crimes that you're accusing them of, then for your evidence that your lawyer hands over, well, it relates to other people, other cases, different allegations regarding different media outlets and cases that have been closed for a number of years. It's pretty obvious to even the most uneducated person in law that seems a little bit odd. No wonder the judge threw it out. This was a time-wasting exercise, and the fact that he had the audacity to use the Princess of Wales and his brother after everything he's done to them. Now, Harry, of course, did, through his spokesperson, put out a statement saying he was unaware of what his legal team were going to do. David Sherborne is one of the most sought-after celebrity lawyers in all of the land. There is no way that he would do anything without his client's knowledge and say-so, especially it was one of the claimant's own brother and sister-in-law. So sorry, that's just not believable to me. So the big question is, where is Harry's evidence of the crimes that he is saying were committed against him? Is it a case like we've seen in previous cases that it's mysteriously been destroyed and misplaced? Let's not forget that Meghan and Harry, he sat on the sofa next to his wife, downplayed everything that the Princess of Wales had been through. Catherine suffered an unimaginable number of years being attacked and harassed by the media when she was not a princess. She was just a royal girlfriend. She did not have royal protection. She did not have police protection. And she endured that alongside her friends, her family, other students at the university for so many years. And Harry and Meghan completely downplayed it. But now Harry wants to use what happened to Catherine to bolster his case. Oh yes, it was really terrible what happened to Catherine and my brother, so it must have happened to me. Pick a lane, Harry, pick a lane. I can imagine that both Catherine and William were instantly relieved that the judge has laughed this particular set of evidence out of court. And unfortunately for Harry, it's not the only bit that the judge has thrown out. He has also thrown out accusations that Harry's legal team have thrown at Associated News, stating that they had commissioned burglaries to order. Justice Nicklin said lawyers were using an unorthodox approach and have a fundamental misunderstanding of the scope of the litigation. This is not only throwing bits out and scratching it off, it's an epic legal bitch slap. And the fact that this is only months away from starting, it makes me think that Harry seems to be getting desperate, because if Harry had all of this evidence of these terrible crimes being committed, enough to obviously raise this huge court case, you would think that he would be handing that over. But it seems to me that perhaps they're coming up a bit short. And I'm not so sure, with the judge showing this level of annoyance, that Harry's saying, "It was done to me, I felt it happen to me, I'm Prince Harry, I must be right," is really going to hold up. But it's not the only story with Harry regarding court cases, because rinse and repeat, he is never going to take no for an answer. Harry has put in a fresh bid to have his taxpayer-funded police protection reinstated. This won't shock many people, because Harry hasn't stopped since the Queen turned round and said, "You've quit the jobs, you lose the perks." Harry does not represent the UK. He's not a government official. He doesn't work for the monarchy. He doesn't represent the crown. He is a private citizen. And Harry has fought this tooth and nail. And he tried to do it secretly at first. And I believe it was the Daily Mail, actually, that outed him and told the public that Harry was trying to go against the Sandringham Agreement and get his security back. Harry and Meghan, if you remember, when they quit and Megxit was announced, they demanded that they would keep their internationally protected person status. Because what this means is their security costs would be covered not just by the UK, but also in part by any other country that they reside in or they choose to visit. Yes, taxpayers all around the world would be responsible for Harry and Meghan's security. When he got outed, his spokesperson was quick to point out, "Oh, but Harry wants to pay for it." You cannot pay for police protection, because what it would mean is anybody else with a big ego and a large bank account would be able to do the same. But of course, in 2024, Harry had yet again lost a case, and he was demanding through the high courts, despite the judge on the last case saying, "Look, don't reapply for this. It's not going to happen. You know, the decision was made. It was correct. Don't do it." So Harry, what does he do? He does it again. The high courts tell him no. So Harry puts in an appeal and starts it all off again. The appeal got rejected. And this is when we got Harry back in May, just a few months ago, doing his live temper tantrum for the BBC, where he not only blamed the royal household, courtiers, for people inside the royal family that want him and his family harmed or worse, but he also said that his father, the king, was responsible for stopping him from having his security assessments. This is why I never believed his recent attempts at reconciliation. Like many of you, felt exactly the same. It was not coming from the heart. He was not there because he was concerned about his father's health. He was there to see what he could get, and after his brief 50-minute meeting through the main entrance and exit, caught by the paparazzi and his face looking like, well, he looked like a scolded toddler, I think he didn't get exactly what he wanted or expected. Hence, again, another interview the next day with The Guardian. And of course, the releasing the details of how he lovingly gave a picture of his children to his father. It's not just about emotional manipulation to the king. It's about emotionally manipulating the public to side with poor little Harry. So Harry is now badgering the new Home Secretary, who is Shabana Mahmood, about his case. He had also previously lobbied Yvette Cooper to no avail. Now, for those of you that are perhaps new here, hello! I would like to just point out that Harry does have taxpayer-funded security. He is not being left completely defenseless. He just has to give 30 days notice so they can assess how much security that he needs when he comes. And if he's on a jolly, they're obviously not going to be dedicating police officers for him to come over here and have fun. But if he's here visiting charities and organizations and they think there's a big enough risk to just keep him safe, they will deploy officers. Take, for example, when he stayed at the hotel for the World Child Awards, the Met Police Scotland Yard sent 15 police officers to sweep that hotel for him because he refuses to stay inside any of the palace grounds, despite it being offered to him several times. So that's 15 police officers that had to do that sort of sweep. Can you imagine how much that cost the taxpayers? But it's not enough for Harry. He wants the blue lights, he wants the bells, he wants the whistles. He wants everything paid for. Harry has a huge private security team, and with him and Meghan going in separate directions, quite a lot, shall we say, that's an awful lot of money they have to pay for. They have to pay for their travel costs, they have to pay for their accommodations, they have to pay for all of these people, their entourage. So it's got to be to the tune of hundreds of thousands, if not well into the millions each year. And the way Meghan likes to blow money, I mean, Harry might be sweating a bit under the collar. Meghan's clothing allowance or the security to keep them safe. And considering the amount of pap strolls that she's organising, she must be costing an awful lot of money for the security to be following her back and forth as she goes to restaurants and does her little struts for the paps. So over the last few days, we have seen Meghan and Harry together separately in New York, right? Meghan is doing pap strolls every day, sometimes a couple of times a day. They're celebrity hunting, making sure that people know who they are with, who they're dining with. But it's not just about them trying to get coverage. This New York trip is about Meghan test running her new reinvention. And I know you guys were exactly the same as me. We saw it coming. You could see it happening when she had that interview with Emily Chang and she tried to convince people to say that the public associate Meghan mostly with beauty and with fashion. Meghan is associated with a lot of things when it comes to the public, and I can assure you it's not her fashion choices. I mean, yes, there is some association with how much she spends on her clothes. She's a very modern day Imelda Marcos. You know, Meghan's just picked up an award for being a humanitarian, and now she's posting daily posts with her wearing hundreds of thousands of pounds of jewels and designer clothes, a video showing her luxury travel and stay, and of course her giant shoe collection. I don't mean it's a giant collection of shoes, I mean her shoes are giant. This looks like something you'd see in the dressing up lineup of RuPaul's Drag Race. But this, of course, is all about Meghan reinventing herself now as a fashionista. This is how Meghan wants the world to suddenly start seeing her. But unless bag lady chic is in, I'm sorry, this is a hill she will never be able to climb, and no amount of posing and cosplaying Victoria Beckham is going to change that. Meghan has clearly decided that she's over her jam-making influencer phase. I've said this to you guys so many times. I know I repeat myself, but Meghan repeats herself. It's the same pattern of behavior. She starts something up new, she reinvents herself, and it's all about the flash in the pan, the new publicity. She gets more interest. People want to speak to her on a podcast. She might collect an award. She'll get magazine photo shoots. This is Meghan's new project. And then, like a toddler at Christmas, she gets bored with the toy that's in front of her and she goes on to the next thing. I believe we're seeing this with As Ever. She's not posting it. She's not promoting it. She's not really putting much effort into it anymore. Even her latest wine launch went largely unnoticed, most in part because I think people have got Meghan Markle fatigue. But this story is funny and it's definitely worth me bringing up. Because you know Meghan went to Paris Fashion Week. It was dubbed by many paid for artists articles I'd like to add how this was her triumphant return to the fashion world. Meghan never made it in the fashion world. She tried this many years ago when she had her TIG blog and she was on Suits. And much the same as now, she had terrible taste in fashion. The difference is now Meghan has more money and she's got titles and she's got a prince on her arm that she will occasionally wheel out. But the problem is with Meghan, the same thing happens with every new venture that she does. She has an incredible urge to toot her own trumpet, but she's also incredibly loose with the truth. She likes to put in a few lies here and there because she doesn't have the credentials, the experience, the talent, the skills to back up any of these ventures. So she just makes it up as she goes. And a perfect example has just presented itself, which honestly, it had me in hysterics. And this is when Meghan appeared at the Balenciaga Paris fashion show. She got her spokesperson to give a statement, and this statement I had missed. Over the years, the Duchess has worn a number of designs by Pier Paolo. They have worked closely together, collaborating on design for the key moments on the world stage. This evening reflects the culmination of many years of artistry and friendship, reflected in her support of his new creative chapter at Balenciaga. Well, it seems that the new creative director for Balenciaga, who had over 2 decades working at Valentino, who dressed A-lister superstars Zendaya for the Oscars, Florence Pugh for the Met Gala, he should be very grateful for his collaborations and close working relationship with Meghan Markle that none of us have heard about before. Nor has apparently Pier Paolo himself, who in a recent interview with The Cut magazine gave a very different version of events. Well, his recent interview, he said, Meghan and I met some years ago and we've been texting ever since. She reached out and said that she'd love to come to the show. There was no strategy or big orchestration. So as it turns out, Meghan was not, in fact, the star of the show for Balenciaga, despite her walking in as if she was with her entourage. She was not Pier Paolo's coveted muse for the show. So in the long short of it, Meghan had invited herself. There's obviously nothing wrong with her asking to attend fashion shows, but my point here is the fact that she got her spokesperson to put out a statement as extraordinary to say that she had worked closely with him, collaborating on designs for key moments on the world stage, that they have many years of artistry and friendship between them. No wonder their kiss was that of 2 strangers, not friends that have been collaborating in artistry for years. They couldn't even collaborate properly on an air kiss. To put such a ridiculous statement out there when it's clearly fabricated would be a career suicide move to most people. But that's the difference with Meghan. Her entire image is quite literally built on a throne of lies. No matter how she dresses it up, no matter who she dresses as, Meghan will still remain that desperate social climber begging to be invited to all of the cool parties. And it reminds me of a podcast back in 2023. It was comedian Tim Dillon who outed Meghan for texting and harassing celebrities. He apparently went to a Hollywood celebrity packed party and he was with a few people saying that Meghan had been texting them. She texts them all the time, begging to hang out with them and to get invited to all of these places. And this to me matches with what Pier Paolo's just said, that she's been texting him and she asked if she could come to the show. Honestly, it's laughable, even more so now that she tried to make out, ordering the paps in and everything, she tried to make out that she was like the secret superstar that he'd kept in his back pocket, and it turns out she'd begged for a ticket. Honestly, you think that she would just stop the pathological lying. But this is where so many people say that she just doesn't get it. She's incapable of stopping herself from telling lies. As Piers Morgan once called her, Princess Pinocchio. So guys, on that note, I will be back with you very soon. I hope it gave you a giggle. Take care for now. Bye.